Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics. And I am New Jersey's premier journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine for 2020, 2021, and now in 2022, as well as the sworn enemy of all the local latte liberals, social justice clowns, woke fools, as well as all the cancel culture vultures here in Hudson County and throughout the state of New Jersey. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Hope you all had a wonderful week. Happy February. And as always, there's a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I've been somewhat of a journalistic watchdog since this show began in April of 2019. So whenever I see bad journalism, I like to call it out, preferably because I don't engage in it, and number two, because it's kind of fun to poke and ridicule some of my peers in the field. And of course, this week is no exception. Now, a special thank you to the New Jersey Monitor and its editor-in-chief, Terrence McDonald. Now, the reason Terrence is significant is Terrence was sort of a mainstay in Hudson County journalism for quite some time. He wrote for the Jersey Journal for many years, and congrats to him on now starting up a new project with the New Jersey Monitor. And you should definitely check out his stuff at www.newjerseymonitor.com because it's really good journalism. It may not break news all the time like the New Jersey Globe, but I'm telling you, the articles are well written, and really the level of journalism there is exceptional. So again, a shout out to him and the New Jersey Monitor for giving us some details on what I'm about to discuss. But it's, sort of a relief to hear that not just only Republicans are determined to make sure that Governor Phil Murphy's executive orders concerning COVID restrictions are rolled back, but you know what? It seems like they're now getting some support across the aisle with Democrats. Now, earlier this week, a bill was introduced that would curtail Governor Phil Murphy's emergency powers, but unlike earlier attempts, though, this bid appears to have some support from Democrats. Now, the bill was sponsored by New Jersey State Senator Declan O'Scanlan, a Republican out of Monmouth County. Now, it would automatically sort of sunset the state of emergency declarations issued by the governor 60 days after they come into effect, unless majorities in both chambers vote to extend them by 30 days. Currently, the law allows a state of emergency to continue until the governor rescinds the declaration. Now, as we all know, Governor Murphy has chosen not to rescind really anything other than indoor dining and other things when it comes to indoor capacity. Now, O'Scanlan's bill would grant the legislature similar oversight over public health emergencies that last longer than 60 days. Now, for states of emergency and public health emergency declarations, the legislature would be able to pass resolutions to extend them for a maximum of only 90 days. Now, the move comes about 3 weeks after the governor reissued a public health emergency because the legislature did not approve a measure granting him emergency powers that he requested. Now, the declaration allows the governor to retain power over some items that were loathed by Republicans, like his order requiring masks inside of schools. Now, State Senator O'Scanlan said in a statement this week, quote, "It's unfathomable to many people that our laws would allow a single person to wield such an astonishing amount of authority with virtually no oversight. Our new legislation is based on experience over the last 2 years and addresses the serious concerns expressed by both legislators and constituents that we represent." Now, O'Scanlan did mention on his Twitter feed that State Senator Vin Gopal, also who serves in Monmouth County districts, who's a Democrat, would sign onto the bill as a prime sponsor. Now, Gopal is indeed a moderate Democrat, which we don't really see too much anymore here in New Jersey, representing the sole district in the state representing the legislature by both major parties. Now, State Senator Gopal declined to comment this week, though he's expected to support the bill as a sponsor. A spokesperson for the governor, to no one's surprise, declined to comment. Now, folks, I have to say that, listen, this is welcome news to anyone that is just tired of the COVID restrictions that Governor Murphy has implemented on the Garden State for over 2 years now. Folks, I've had the privilege of traveling to the great state of Texas and the great state of Florida, those two freedom-loving states. And guess what? Those are two very different governors than the one we have here, or even across the river, right? Even before Andrew Cuomo stepped down, or even, Ned Lamont in Connecticut. But folks, you know what? COVID didn't escalate. COVID did skyrocket in Florida and Texas, and there were much looser restrictions. And I think we all know who got it right and who got it wrong. And it seems that many in the legislature here in New Jersey are right to be angry with the governor in terms of wanting more emergency powers, wanting sort of a sole authoritarian rule when it comes to COVID restrictions. So, hey, shout out to State Senator O'Scanlan for really standing up to the governor And also, too, you know what? Let's talk about State Senator Vin Gopal, who talked about principle over party with his decision to also be a prime sponsor of the bill. But folks, it's not even so much about reporting about this topic, which is very, very important, and a lot of other mainstream news outlets in New Jersey won't do. But again, that's the difference between a reputable organization like the New Jersey Monitor, headed by Terrence McDonald, and of course other news agencies, for example, Insider NJ, whose editor-in-chief couldn't even find a moment of the day to report on something like this. But when you look at his Facebook feed or the columns that he's publishing, folks, for example, the latest column by Maxie Pizarro from Insider NJ is detailing someone who's running for a council seat in the city of Newark. Folks, no one cares, okay? We all know that Mayor Ross Baraka is going to win in a landslide again, and whoever's on his ticket will win again. It's as simple as that. That's just how democratic rule functions in this state when it comes to municipal elections. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, that's just the reality, okay? Especially in New Jersey's largest city. But what's really funny to me is someone like Max Pizarro, who prides himself on being a journalist, right, would focus on some no-name council person that's running who lost his seat, or at least lost the backing of Mayor Ross Baraka, to report on something like that when a story like I just mentioned right now via the New Jersey Monitor is so much more important. But you know what? Again, that would require Maxie Pizarro and others at Insider NJ, like JJ Lasser, little JJ, right, to, again, have integrity, have some character, have some principles, and report on a story that affects millions of New Jerseyans, right, where the governor's COVID restrictions have harmed thousands of businesses, some that have never returned, some that are still struggling, even with some of the restrictions that the governor implemented. Folks, do you want to know why Florida and that economy and the economy in the Lone Star State of Texas are prospering? It's because those governors get it, okay? And no offense to Phil Murphy. I've had a chance to talk with Governor Murphy at functions. He's a nice guy. I don't have a bad thing to say about him personally, but politically and governing-wise, I think we all know what's happened. And never mind the fact that now we're learning other, news that's broken this week about whether or not COVID restrictions and mask mandates have actually worked, right? Or whether lockdowns actually worked, right? Folks, we've all seen the literature on our news feeds, right? Now, whether the liberal mainstream media nationally will talk about it, that remains to be seen. But they definitely won't talk about it here in New Jersey. So again, folks, as I've talked about consistently on this program, I'm out here to call out bad journalism. And once again, who leads the pack? Yes, we all know it's Max Pizarro with Insider NJ. And not everybody there is totally bad, folks. I love Fred Snowflake. He's a great columnist, excellent writer. Love having him on my podcast. Same with Alan Steinberg. We don't agree on anything whatsoever philosophically, but he's another good journalist. He's another great writer. So I don't want to sort of paint with a broad brush when it comes to, Max Pizarro, Insider NJ, or even, David Cruz with NJTV, who I know has been the butt of my jokes for so many years on this program, right? What do we look at this week with David Cruz? Talking to Amy Torres, an intellectually bankrupt executive director of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, a woman who wouldn't know economics if it fell from the sky. But yet, that's what David Cruz wants to focus on, right? Interviewing a woman whose sole purpose in life is to coddle illegals every minute of the day. But that's what David Cruz finds to be important. I'm not talking about rolling back mask mandates, not talking about rolling back COVID restrictions, but the fact that two state senators from different sides of the aisle, yeah, they live in Monmouth County, but they couldn't be more ideologically different than each other. And guess what? That's news. That's something that should be reported on. That's something that, should be scrutinized when it comes to Trenton. That's something that should be scrutinized when it comes to Governor Murphy. But again, folks, Uncle Dave, that's above his pay grade to think that far ahead. And the same thing with Max Pizarro and these other sorry-ass journalists throughout the state of New Jersey that can't seem to prioritize what's news and what isn't. Folks, that never happens here because I'll continue to call it bad journalism as long as I can. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. And now to some local stories for your consideration. And a special thank you to Terry West from the Jersey Journal for her report on this story. Now, it was indeed a decisive loss for the Hoboken Board of Education recently as voters rejected its referendum for a new $241 million bonded high school by a margin of 2-1. Now, the election culminated almost 3 months of often heated community debate, both online and at school board meetings, leaving even those happy with the results quite winded and exhausted. Now, the Board of Education has never really shared a Plan B solution for a growing enrollment and aging facilities. And the president of the Board of Education, along with the district superintendent, did not respond to interview requests from the Jersey Journal, or really for any other local journalists for that matter. But those who campaigned against the referendum, as well as the mayor, who had a lot of sort of investment in this, sort of political capital-wise, who advocated for it overwhelmingly, say they are ready to work collaboratively towards a solution now that the voters have turned down, at least for now, the new construction slated for JFK Stadium that would have included an ice rink and a rooftop football field. For all of you that are familiar with the beautiful Union City High School in Midtown Union City, right on Kennedy Boulevard, folks, we all know what that looks like, that beautiful field on top of the high school. It's state-of-the-art, football, baseball, soccer. It's amazing facility. And I get why that becomes sort of an attractive destination or a blueprint for other high schools that are looking to upgrade their facilities. Now, again, Pavel Sokolov, one of the big activists in Hoboken, said, quote, "We want to capitalize on this momentum by saying, hey, let's all go back to the drawing board together and listen to the views of the stakeholders." Again, he was one of the big organizers that campaigned against a referendum. Now, both he and members of the, quote, Friends of the New Hoboken High School group said that they plan to attend the Board of Education's next meeting coming up on February the 8th to learn about what next steps are to follow. According to Jane Mylan, also invested in this project, our goal is to engage the community more, and the Board of Education meetings are certainly an early step for that. Now, again, she was also an early participant in the campaign supporting the referendum. There was a large outcry, and a very loud one, that people weren't included in the process. Well, now we expect people to show up and their enthusiasm against the proposal. We hope that they match it with the enthusiasm that helps us build a plan that moves us forward in the Mouse Square City of Hoboken. Now, more than 8,000 residents voted in the rare January special election, recently on January the 25th, with only about 1,000 fewer people than the 9,383 people who weighed in on the mayoral race in November, a traditionally timed, though uncontested election. Election results have not yet been certified, but clearly the margin was overwhelming. Now, there were many arguments, though, exchanged for and against the school board's plan, but one of the most recurring complaints was about transparency, and why not, folks? We want that out of millions of taxpayer dollars that are going to go into a project like this. Now, the election date and topic were not announced before the November municipal election, in which Board of Education trustees were on the ballot, and with a late January election day, it appears that Hoboken missed a potential nor'easter by just 4 days, which would have ultimately really affected the vote total, folks. Now, after the defeat, Sokolov feels the Board of Education now has the opportunity to force a new strategy, one that presents all of the facts to voters during, not after, the planning stage. Now, residents should help contribute to the ultimate plan, not simply approve or deny it, as the campaign had argued. Now, Mayor Ravi Bala shared similar thoughts in a statement on election night, saying, quote, "With the vote now over, it is my hope that stakeholders will work on a revised plan collaboratively that will meet the needs of our growing school population and reflect resident feedback." Folks, listen, I'm glad that the bond referendum was defeated. I mean, I get it. I've been inside Hoboken High School. It has a lot of history, has a lot of tradition, but it's an old, decaying building. So I understand the need for it. Listen, where I live in Union City, folks, yes, we're spoiled. We have a lot of brand new schools, State Senator, and of course the mayor there, Brian Stack, has worked diligently with the state of New Jersey, with multiple governors, right, over different administrations, right? John Corzine, Chris Christie, and even now with Phil Murphy, to make sure that Union City schools are fully funded and that facilities are up to the task. That has always been the case with other municipalities in Hudson County, folks, right? We've seen it in West New York, right, with the new middle school, yet my alma mater, Memorial High School, is still a pretty old building. Same thing in North Bergen, where the current high school will now become a middle school, I believe, and the current high-tech high school on Tunnelly Avenue will now become the new high school. Folks, again, these are older buildings. Same thing in Weehawken, right? Weehawken High School, a lot of tradition. It's an old building, okay? And I get it that parents and students alike and teachers and administrators and non-instructional staff want better facilities. I get all that. But folks, let's be a little, responsible here. As you all know, I am probably the biggest fiscal conservative when it comes to New Jersey opinion journalism. So when I want some transparency, that's not a lot to ask for, especially in the Mouse Square City of Hoboken. Yes, would an ice rink be great? Yeah, of course it would. I'd like more hair on my scalp. Okay, who wouldn't? But we have to be kind of careful here, folks. Okay, we have to sort of look at what's good for the community and what's not. Do we need 2 performing arts centers in the high school? Of course not. 1 should suffice. Okay, do we need a new football field for the Hoboken Red Wings football team and soccer team and other athletics that participate in Hoboken High School? Yes, certainly. I don't disagree with that. But let's be responsible. Because again, at the end of the day, folks, that cost is going to be passed down to Hoboken taxpayers. And again, whether it's that, nice new, latte sipping couple that moved into Hoboken downtown, that's great, into their very expensive condo on Sinatra Drive. But for Hoboken lifers, especially for the elderly, hey, a few $100s being added onto your tax bill makes a world of difference. So let's do what we can, folks, to make sure that both sides can come to the table and come to an agreement where, hey, Hoboken can have a new high school, but at a much more fiscally responsible pace. And now let's move a little northern in Hudson County to the township of North Bergen. A special thank you to John Hines from the Hudson County View for his report on this story. Now, an initial North Bergen Township tax reval shows that the appraisals might be looking at 60% of residents will either see a decrease or a small increase on their property taxes. Now, the initial North Bergen tax reval appraisals just were published this week, and of course, it's a big hot topic of a debate. Now, according to North Bergen Mayor and also State Senator out of the 32nd Legislative District, Nicholas Sacco, released a statement this week, quote, most homeowners will see tax decreases, others will see increases, and some tax bills will remain about the same because the reval does not raise or lower the total amount of taxes collected by the township. Now, the point of this state-mandated process is to make sure that everyone is paying taxes based on the true value of their home. We're doing everything in our power to make sure that North Bergen residents are treated fairly during this process and that everyone has the opportunity to ask questions and provide more information to make sure their assessment is indeed accurate. Now, New Jersey orders most municipalities throughout the state to undergo periodic property reevaluations, usually once a decade, to make sure that the taxpayers are treated equally and that their property tax bills reflect the true market value of their homes today. Now, the reval process does not change the total amount of taxes raised by the township. Now, according to town spokesman Phil Zabinski, said that out of the remaining 40%, only a small number of outliers would receive large tax increases. Now, folks, I always worry when I hear about these revals, whether we all know the controversy it caused in Jersey City because it was actually more than a decade that passed since the revals were conducted. But whether it's here in my the city I call home, Union City, or my hometown of West New York, or the town right next door in North Bergen, revals always concern me because, as we all know, ladies and gentlemen, this real estate market is it's scorching, okay? It's like just, you can gaslight by just looking at it, folks. And, whether it's condominiums, whether it's homes, whether it's new constructions, that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This market is really, really just booming. It's not calming down anytime soon. So when we think about homeowners with one-family homes, two-family homes, maybe multi-family homes, okay, we tend to worry about what these revals will do. Folks, just listen, whether you go on Zillow or other apps that reflect the real estate market, you can see what homes are going for. Never mind rents, ladies and gentlemen. Rents right now are skyrocketing almost to the point of absurdity, right? A one-bedroom can go anywhere from $16,000 to almost $2,000. And we're not even talking about some of these new condos, right? Whether it's on Port Imperial, Boulevard or along Kennedy Boulevard itself. Folks, rents are high right now. But never mind that. Property values are high. So whenever I hear about this, it kind of worries me because, what are we getting for our tax dollars? Now, I might be biased, ladies and gentlemen, because everyone calls me a Brian Stack boy, but it's not about being a Brian Stack boy. It's about calling facts out for what they are. Okay, my property taxes in Union City are almost $10,000 for my home. But let me tell you something. I get a lot for my value. And while I don't have any kids that I know of that are in public schools, folks, the services, the police department, other vital services for the city of Union City are well-funded and are operating at maximum capacity. I can't say the same for the city of North Bergen, the township of North Bergen, because I'm not really looking at their books, but hey, residents all the time take to social media to talk about whether or not DPW is doing its job with salting the roads, whether or not, potholes are being covered expediently in the township of North Bergen. Same thing in West New York, Guttenberg, Weehawken, wherever in Hudson County, folks. Revals tend to worry me because, you know what, even the slightest tax increase can sometimes be a little catastrophic for families. Again, we're just coming out of COVID. Yes, folks, we are coming out of COVID, despite what the liberal media will tell you. Okay? And we're trying to get back to normal. People are going back to work. Yes, remote work has now become much more acceptable and much more possible. But guess what? Not everybody's back to work at a regular capacity. Not everybody's earning what they used to. Okay? Inflation. Things are more expensive, right? Under Sleepy Joe's new administration. Right? As long as we're not seeing mean tweets anymore, hey, empty shelves at the supermarket and, higher gasoline prices to fill up our tanks, well, that's not a big deal anymore, right? Because, at least we're not seeing mean tweets on our, on our news feeds. But the point is, folks, that when it comes to revals, I always tend to worry about the impact that it has, not just on young couples, middle-aged couples, but the elderly who, again, maybe are living Social Security check to Social Security check, maybe pension check to pension check. These are the populations, these are the demographics that I tend to worry about whenever I hear about a rebound. Even the size increase can sometimes be a suffocation for any resident in any municipality. And now let's move south to Jersey City. And a special thank you to Jake Marr from the Jersey Journal for his report on this story. Now, Journal Square is high on the agenda for the Jersey City Planning Board as it is preparing to weigh approval for several major projects in the area that would add more than 1,300 residential units to Jersey City. Now, in two of the major projects, though, the developers' proposals don't dedicate any of the nearly 1,000 combined units as affordable housing. Now, at 499-501 7th Avenue, Passite LLC, a longtime Jersey City developer by the name of Joseph Panapinto, has a 53-story, 607 residential unit tower before the board for approval, with variances, of course. Now, the site is currently a parking lot on the west side of Summit Avenue between SIP and Magnolia Avenues, respectively, not far from the Journal Square high-rises. Now, again, some details here that make the story even more interesting is that down the street at 415-435 Summit Avenue, the planning board will consider approving amendments to a 26-story, 390-unit proposal by former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer's 425 Summit LLC, Summit and SIP LLC. Now, the amendments appear to be minor and would add a few housing units to the project and slightly alter the building's design. Now, farther south, near McKinley Square, Monticello Properties, LLC, owned by Mordecai Halberstam, is proposing a 10-story, 304 residential unit building at 220-238 Monticello Avenue. Now, that property was formerly the site of several abandoned low-rise buildings and vacant lots, all recently demolished, according to the application's filing. Now, the Summit Avenue projects appear to have predated Jersey City's inclusionary zoning ordinance passed last November amid a citywide conversation about the increased cost of living in Jersey City and the need for housing set aside for low to moderate income residents. Now, under the new law, though, 10 to 15% of units in new developments will be designated as affordable, depending on the location in the city itself. Previously, there were no affordable housing requirements, although city officials urged developers to make 5% affordable or include community amenities in their proposals. Folks, listen, Jersey City, like many of the municipalities in Hudson County or New Jersey or the country for that matter, is continuing to become more and more expensive. But let's just leave it here in Hudson County, and specifically in its largest city of Jersey City. Rents are skyrocketing, folks. Yes, when you drive down Kennedy Boulevard into Jersey City near Journal Square, you see that monstrosity of a building. You'll see more monstrosities surfacing, obviously, if these permits and these ordinances go into effect. But folks, this is where, again, someone like me, coming from a working class family, is concerned for residents in the Journal Square area. I get it. You know, developers and Jersey City itself is trying to make the city more attractive to corporate types, to millennials, to Generation Z type of individuals, or even, again, middle-aged professionals that want to move into Jersey City, right? The desirable destinations were always downtown Jersey City, and to some extent, the Jersey City Heights. But now, again, Journal Square is now jumping into the fray and trying to make it much more attractive to relocate to. Again, folks, you couldn't give away an apartment to me in Journal Square. But again, that's not who they're looking for. I'm not the type of demographic that they're looking to cater to. And I get that. But folks, rents are skyrocketing, especially in Jersey City in that area. So making affordable housing available, yes, folks, that's a must. And I know that I come across as a sort of opinionated conservative, and I know I oftentimes go after, all the woke fools, all the social justice clowns in Jersey City, right? All the Nazi liberals and all the, sort of the toxic progressives. But folks, this is something that really isn't political. It's about being humane. It's about being pragmatic and helping low income to moderate income residents at least have a say, or at least have an option of, maybe moving into Journal Square. Again, it's not for me, and you couldn't, ask me to move there. You couldn't even beg me to move there. But it's a desirable location for a lot of people. It's near the pass station, right? New Jersey Transit buses run up and down. There's a lot more commercial properties there that make it interesting. So, again, folks, this is a story that we should keep an eye out for because, hey, at the end of the day, developers tend to sort of get their way in Hudson County's largest city. Lastly, folks, talking politics with Fernando Uribe, we'll be taking a break here with the Hudson Media Group. Again, since April of 2019, I have to say that I have been so privileged to be hosting this show every single week via their websites and, of course, on their YouTube channel. I can't say enough about Pat O'Malia, the CEO and the executive producer here at the Hudson Media Group, as well as all the wonderful staff that works here, including Jonathan Castillo, who of course works diligently every week and is very patient with the production of my program for many, many months now. But folks, in the meantime, I urge you to please check me out as Real Talk with Fernando Uribe, my Monday night show that is on StreamYard, will now be moving to Jersey First News. Can't say how excited I am to be joining Jersey First, and you can check out all of their excellent programming at www.jerseyfirst.org. That's Jersey First, the number 1, ST.org. Real Talk with Fernando Uribe will be covering a plethora of different topics statewide, not just about politics, but important community issues such as human trafficking, health and wellness, real estate, and much more. So again, for the foreseeable future, check me out on Monday nights live at 6 p.m. by going to www.jerseyfirst.org. Real Talk will start airing in mid-February, so you definitely want to check me out on that very, very new, sort of up-and-coming news channel. And I can't say enough about the staff that I'll be working for, and certainly I'll continue making noise, pissing off the left here in the state of New Jersey with Real Talk with Fernando Uribe as it, again, moves to jerseyfirst.org. And in the meantime, as we return here on the Hudson Media Group, check me out on that program. And of course, you could always check me out at the podcast at www.blogtalkradio.com/TalkinTheHudson as Talkin' the Hudson approaches its 5 years on the air with Blog Talk Radio coming up on March the 1st. You'll continue to see all exclusives that you won't hear anywhere else in New Jersey media, and even Hudson County media for that matter, by going to blogtalkradio.com/TalkinTheHudson. So folks, stay tuned as a lot of great things are coming from my media brand in 2022. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media right here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, along with www.livestream.com/hmgtv, and also check out the Hudson Media Group on their YouTube page. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and, of course, follow them on both Instagram and Twitter. And as a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, Talkin' the Hudson, my 5-time award-winning podcast, continues every single week on Blog Talk Radio. You can check it out at www.blogtalkradio.com/TalkinTheHudson. You can download the episodes from anywhere and anytime from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. As we approach 5 years on the air with Blog Talk Radio, I can't say how proud I am about what this media brand continues to represent for Hudson County residents as we examine Hudson County politics each and every week, as always, on Blog Talk Radio. Don't forget to like Talking Politics right here with Hudson Media Group folks on Facebook. And, of course, make sure you follow it on Instagram at Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe. Also, check out my own Instagram at Professor Fernando Uribe. And also hit me up on Twitter at NoFilterUribe. And always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. We'll see you soon here on its channels. And, of course, folks, I am New Jersey's premier journalist, Top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine for 2020, 2021, and 2022. Of course, the sworn enemy of all the local latte liberals, social justice clowns, woke fools, and toxic progressives everywhere. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/TalkOnTheHudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.